Hi everyone. Today I will be sharing my Mandarin learning journey and TOEFL experience. Starting out with self-introduction, my name is Siwen Liu, or Liu Siwen. I am from Toronto, Canada. And when I was studying Mandarin in Taiwan, I attended the Mandarin Training Center at the National Taiwan Normal University, or NTNU. And in total, I studied for 7 semesters, or 21 months, between September 2002 to May of this year. And so I actually took TOEFL twice. The first time was March 4th last year, and the second time was July this year. And so last year I got a B2, while this year I got a C1. And the reason for taking the TOEFL was just to assess my own proficiency level for Mandarin. Now, for my Mandarin learning journey, growing up, I did speak a Chinese dialect at home with my parents. And I did attend Chinese school in Canada, but I didn't really retain much. And I still could not read or write. And communicating with my family was just a really big struggle. So that motivated me to really take Mandarin, studying Mandarin seriously, and what motivated me to go to Taiwan and study at NTNU. And so at NTNU, I studied for 7 semesters, and I started off with the practical Chinese reading and writing book 1, then moved on to the second book, then contemporary Chinese 5, then advanced business Chinese 1, contemporary short stories from Taiwan, and then the independent reader, and ended with thought and society. And so it was a mix of intensive and regular classes. So intensive was 3 hours a day, and regular was 2 hours a day. So both were 5 days a week. And on top of my class time, I also studied for around average 3 hours on top of the class time. So for my formal learning, it included the NTNU classes. And in class, we would have dictations, tests, essay writing, presentations, and a lot of class discussions. So that was very helpful. And I also attended an interpretation class at NTNU. And as a native English speaker, I was paired up with a Taiwanese student. And we would listen to formal speeches in Chinese and English, and then take turns interpreting from Chinese to English and English to Chinese. And then I would correct their English and they would correct my Chinese. So I felt like this really complemented what I learned in my Mandarin classes. Now, as for informal learning, every day just was learning for me. Daily interactions with locals, ordering food, drinks, reading signs everywhere. I also made some Taiwanese friends, and so hung out with them and learned from them. And I joined a local dance training team, so I got to learn some dance vocabulary from there. And in my free time, I listened to podcasts, watch videos of formal speeches in Mandarin. I also listened to Mandarin songs and sang them at KTV, which is a great reading practice. Really recommend. As for tools, learning tools and resources. So I'm sure most of you may know this. The first one is Pleco Chinese Dictionary. But for those who may not, it is a Chinese dictionary with a very comprehensive database covering traditional and simplified Chinese with very detailed definitions and examples, as well as many features that can be customized. And so whenever I saw a word that I didn't know, I would just Pleco it. And so it was very convenient because it's handy on the go and you don't need internet for it. Now, the second tool is something that Sami actually mentioned earlier, and it's Anki. And this was something that really helped me retain vocabulary. And so Anki uses spaced repetition. And how it works is it uses the spaced repetition for reviewing flashcards. And so it involves reviewing the cards at intervals that grow longer each time you successfully recall it. And if you get the answer wrong, the interval then gets shorter. And so for me, I had my phone, so I did pay $25 for it. And I do say though it is very worth it and would recommend if you don't already use it. Now, moving on to some resources, so textbooks. I personally felt like all my textbooks in all the classes that I took were very helpful in one way or another, but these two here were specifically helpful for me, or particularly helpful for me in higher level reading. So this is Thoughts in Society and Independent Reader. And this is because they both contain a lot of more formal vocabulary and a lot of idioms, which come up in a lot of higher level reading and on the TOCFL reading section as well. So I found a lot of the vocab I learned here did come up on my test as well. But also just everyday life whenever I encounter those more formal texts. So very, very helpful. Move on. So for some personal learning tips, if you are currently living in a Mandarin speaking environment, then please take advantage of your environment. And this is because learning opportunities are everywhere. You can practice reading just by looking at signs on the street, in the subway, even in the bathroom, in the stalls, they would have signs. And also, you can look at menus at restaurants, night markets, bubble tea shops, etc. And of course, KTV, always great for reading practice. And for speaking and listening, any interaction with a local, I think, is a great speaking and listening practice. Yeah, you can order food, drinks, shop, and also at the bank you can practice, post office, and these are all great opportunities for you to practice context-specific vocabulary. Another another personal learning tip is to make local friends. And if you are learning Mandarin, let's say at university right now, I would suggest you can maybe join some school clubs or even social groups outside of school if you can, to really make some local friends with who are native Mandarin speakers. And this is because you can practice everything with them, from speaking, listening, reading, and writing, through messaging. And it's also a great way to learn the local way of speaking because they're probably not taught in textbooks. If you want a more structured practice with a native Mandarin speaker, you can also consider getting a language exchange partner and then choose specific topics to discuss. Now, the next tip, this is from one of my Chinese teachers in Taiwan, and he would always remind us that the important thing is to understand how to use vocabulary and not just know what it means. And so he would say, 懂不代表会用. So just because you understand what a word means doesn't mean you know how to use it practically. And so the important part, the part that we want to do after we know what a word means, is to figure out really how do you use it. And one way to do that is you can make sentences with any new words that you learn and figure out where does that word fit in that sentence structure. And then you can have your teacher or your local friend or language exchange partner then look it over and then give you feedback. Another way is to differentiate synonyms in Chinese, because there are so many words with very similar meanings, but they're used in different contexts. So you can figure out, okay, which words are used in which context to then help you better understand how to use those words. The next quote is also something my teacher told me. It was along the lines of 多听,多说,多写,多进步. So listen more, speak more, write more, and you will improve more. Or aka just practice, because practice will help you improve a lot. And the next tip is to learn and apply what you learn immediately, because trust me, it will stick with you way more. And if you don't use it, you will forget it very easily. And the next is to not be afraid to make mistakes. And in fact, look forward to making mistakes, because that's an opportunity for you to be corrected and then learn and then improve. Now, for my TOCFL experience, for my preparation, I didn't use any specific TOEFL prep material, but I was already using Anki Daily for the content review from my NTNU classes. And I also did take a few mock tests that were offered at NTNU. So test day for me, my test time was 10 to 12:20. And these were the items that I brought: my ID, pen, water. And my emotional state, it was a mix of nervousness and excitement. Near the end, though, I was a little anxious just because I was the last one, but I tried not to let that get to me and just completed the test still at my own pace. And now, tips for TOEFL test takers. So before the test day, the first tip is to register early because slots do fill up very quickly, especially for those more convenient locations. Number two is to take advantage of free online resources. And as mentioned earlier, TOEFL website is a great resource for that. They have study resources, recommended learning materials, and vocabulary lists. Number three is to tailor your prep towards improving your weaknesses. So whether it is listening, reading, speaking, writing, figure out which one it is that you need to work on. And the TOEFL website also has a great resource for tips for each of those sections, so that could help you. And next is to familiarize yourself with the test format. And you can watch videos. These are the test system operation videos, also on the TOEFL website. And they're basically tutorials on what kind of questions to expect on the test and just the overall test structure. So it'll help you get an idea of how you will be tested. And of course, another way is to do a mock test, because that will for sure help you familiarize yourself with how you will be tested. And again, this is available on the TOEFL website. Now for test day, so before the test on test day, the first tip is to arrive early, so at least 30 minutes before the test, because you may need time to find the location or just have time to relax. And next is don't stress. You've worked so hard, and trust in your preparation. And clear your mind before your test through either meditation or listening to your favorite music. Next is to avoid drinking too much liquid because there are no breaks in between the sections of the test. And finally, to turn off your phone completely during the test, because any sound or vibration that comes from your phone will give you a score of 0. Now, during the test on test day, the first tip is to prevent brain fatigue and maintain focus. Close your eyes and take a deep breath between each section of the test, and also between passages in the reading section. I personally found this very helpful for me to maintain my focus throughout. The next is to focus on yourself. Don't worry if others finish before you, because again, this test is adaptive, so people may finish at different times. For the listening section in particular, something I found helpful was to take notes to keep track of who said what. And the next is to click on any answer choice before choosing your answer, to prevent skipping questions, because the test for listening, it moves on automatically for each question and you cannot go back. So just click on any one before you choose which one you think is right. Now for the reading section, the tip is to read actively. And so for each paragraph, you can ask yourself, okay, what is really the main point here? And then make a little mental note. And then don't rush, because for the reading section, you do only need to complete a minimum of 25 sections, and you should have enough time to complete those questions. Now for my life in Taiwan and future plans, I felt like I personally had an amazing 2-year experience in Taiwan. I was there from August 2022 to August of this year. I got to take Mandarin classes, learn Mandarin to a level where I can now have a lot more deeper conversations with my family. I also got to teach English in Taiwan. I traveled around Taiwan as well as nearby countries, and I made local Taiwanese friends as well as friends from all over the world. So all of these contributed to an amazing 2-year experience for me. And for my future, I hope to pursue a career in healthcare as well as continue to improve my Mandarin. Thank you everyone for listening. That concludes my presentation.